TV apps in their respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate, leave a comment. A good one, I hope. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Speaking of smart TVs.
Yes?
Yes, Aaron, I'm referring to you. Speaking of smart TVs. So you, when you got your haircut, were you socially distant?
I do it myself at home with a clipper that I bought from Walmart about 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm 100% socially distant.
Well, I do the
Have I
same
gone
thing.
choppy on you there, Frank?
And you know why I had a haircut like yours before? Yeah, just you do that thing. You go, and then you go. Oh shoot! Is that what you did?
Pretty much. That's why I have it set on the lowest setting, so there's nowhere for it to go badly wrong.
Well, I did that too, and it went badly. My girlfriend, she goes, I did one of those things that looked like I was like a new air kid. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I do my own as well. I've done my own for the whole time we're in the pandemic. I'm getting kind of good at it. I guess, I mean, it's what people have talked about. Like one of the biggest problems, and it's not news, but it's something, it's not a flash, it's not news, but it's something that we can talk about. Personal hygiene and how we take care of ourselves at this time is, we spend a lot of time in track pants. We don't cut our hair as much as we used to. And if you live with somebody, there has to be this mutually agreeable bar lowering of how you take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Somebody really, if you live with someone, they really have to love you right now, because being in this situation, and folks, I live in a trailer. I want you to understand that. I live in a trailer. That's where I live. And being with somebody in a trailer, can you imagine? So you really do learn how to love somebody and to respect them. And believe it or not, I'm going to use these word space within tight confines.
Well, it's tight confines is always a consideration, and I think what upset me the most about this pandemic is the utter lack of care the rich and famous seem to have taken. Like you show up at red carpet and events and everything like that, and you're spiffy.
Expect more from them?
Well, yeah, you make more money than me. You should look better than me. I should not be looking better than Trevor Noah does right now.
Yeah, he's a great example. He's a great example because his afro is, it's not smooth like you're accustomed with him.
Oh, and his facial hair is just, it's frightening. And I don't even I'm sorry, Frank. I seem to have lost you there. You seem to be breaking up.
These beards, you see people that are not even. Sudden is a challenge. What do you? Oh, okay.
All right, I think you finally caught up.
Okay.
The joys of technology. So, I'm sorry, Frank. I missed your last question.
What I was saying was that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No. Well, I was just referring to the fact that now you see people with big beards. Like I have one here. I've learned to get away from the shave from the razor to one of these. I'm not doing a commercial, but they work pretty good. So I understand why people have to let their beards grow and stuff. I mean, Lamoriello must be really pissed right now, is all I can say. And I'm referring to Lou Lamoriello, the general manager of the Maple Leafs at the time, who made all the Leafs cut their hair, made sure that they shaved and all that kind of stuff. No, hygiene has been lost. And I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm making fun about it, but you know, it's funny. We're at home. We have more time. We've gotten lazier. That's what it feels like.
No, it definitely feels that we're taking more liberties, I guess, with you know how everything plays out. You're certainly not appearing in public as much. For individuals like us, obviously, when we appear on television or on live streams and that sort of thing, it's a little more important for us to be clean shaven and presentable, at least in my opinion. But I think the one thing I noticed and I thought was funniest was that this pandemic immediately turned all of the biggest talk show hosts into YouTubers. And it was the funniest thing for me, because it's like, you guys are now down on my level.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And I guess, you know, it's the inner I want to be scruffy that comes out, because, you know, honestly, Aaron, you said it yourself. You gave the reason. The reason is because you're in public, you got to put your best face forward, your best foot forward, all that stuff, right? And if you don't do that, you have a problem.
No, most definitely. And it's not a flattering look for most of them. Now, the opposite also holds true. I have several friends who have decided to shave their beards, and unfortunately, it's gone exactly the opposite way. I'm like, you should have kept the beard on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you want to call Eduardo, or should I?
Let me see if I can raise him.
You mean lower him?
Well, I wonder if he's got his phone nearby.
Yeah, I think he does. That's what we're listening to. We're listening. Does that? You know, it's an interesting situation, because, you know, the rules are changing, and I'm just wondering how many of the rules that have changed are we going to continue to change, and will change even, you know, deeper and longer. That seems to be the question. Will we get back to the way they, you know, that things were? Our priorities have really gotten a kick in the seat of the pants. I got to tell you, I don't know about the rest of you out there, but think about it. If you can't go to work and now you're at home, motivation has become something of a problem. We've heard about, you know, some really scary statistics that they're starting to come up with, where abuse is escalating, where you know, crimes in the home are happening more at a higher rate. People are suffering emotionally, which is the other stuff, is a sign of people having emotional issues. And, you know, we hear about promoting the idea that kids should go to school because they need to go to school. Parents need them to go to school. Kids need something to do to be able to, you know, occupy their minds. You know, there's so much going on, you know, Aaron, about, you know, all kidding aside, by this staying at home, it's not all good.
Unfortunately, it isn't, and that's the reality. The more that you're exposed to individuals, the more these problems tend to come to the fore. I almost get the impression that all of these problems were already simmering below the surface, close enough to the surface already as it is. It just sort of bubbles over now, and it's a truly unfortunate situation that we end up getting stuck in. And there's nowhere for these people to go. There's really no way for them to get the help that they need, especially if they're dealing with depression issues, if they're dealing with abuse issues. Shelters aren't available. It's really not the greatest of situations for anyone to be in. I'm sure that we could try to tough it out, but at the same time, it's going to drive home the need for us to make massive improvements in our infrastructure, especially with regards to abuse and counseling and that sort of fun stuff. I mean, Michelle and I, my wife and I, have been handling it relatively well, just because we actually genuinely like each other. I'm just wondering how many families and couples out there are running into issues because it gets overwhelming.
Well, what if around the time the pandemic hit its stride, you were having problems with your better half that
Now you're
can't be
trapped at home
helping you?
with them. There's nowhere to
Yeah, you
go.
can't get away. You can't
Hmm.
get away. And
I
and
mean,
and this is a horrible thing to say, and I don't know whether it's a good idea to talk about it, but some cheaters gotta cheat. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, unfortunately, that does, you know, that does sound, while it does sound a little bit trite, it does also ring true. There
You know
are
what I
certain
mean?
people
Like,
who are slaves to their behaviors and their passions that can't necessarily control it. So,
and if they can't, then they get angry, and then they
mhm.
get more frustrated. And so, that's why it's, there's a lot of truth, that we hear. I've learned this phrase, you know, bi-optional. Uh, there aren't always just two options. It's a little more complicated than that. But unfortunately, the lowest common denominator does dictate. So, when I'm not pretending to be a doctor or anything, but I'm just trying to share my experience as a human being and sharing, the problems that I've had in my life and how, they become accentuated when you can't do what you want to do. And that's got to be hard because not everybody wants to sit at home and be on Zoom 4 hours a day.
Well, so those of us who do choose to be at home and on Zoom 4 hours a day are truly blessed in this day and age. So,
Well, if you're doing work, right?
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I mean that's the distraction that a lot of people, we've referred to are, the people who are there, our first responders, our day-to-day responders, those folks that are going into work. It's tough for them, but there are a lot of people who can't work and can't do what gets them paid. And it's not just that they're not getting paid, it's they can't go out either. They're being suffocated emotionally. I can't imagine it's not suffocating. I'm a retired old man, so for me, it's a question of getting used to the fact that I don't get to go out. Big deal. I wasn't doing that before. So, I can't put myself in your position if you didn't have a job. I can't put myself in the position of a young adult, 22, 21 years old, going to school, trying to learn something so that they can make a living. And imagine, and this is the part that I can relate to. Imagine someone who's very motivated to get ahead and they can't. How frustrating must that be, Aaron?
I can't even begin to imagine. I'll be honest with you, I have a middling motivational drive. If I have to go back to the office, fine. If I don't, fine. If I'm at home, I'll get work done, but it's not like I'm setting the world on fire.
So what you're
COVID
saying
job.
is this situation is suited for you, but you could see that someone who's not doesn't have your personality and your and I don't want to sound like I'm being negative here or your drive, right? Or a drive like yours, how they're affected because someone is driven. And I just can't imagine how hard it is for them if they're being, held back. And I don't know, just like the pandemic and just like the people who get the coronavirus, we don't know how affected they're going to be down the road, whether the effects of having corona, we talk about people who passed away because of having the coronavirus. COVID-19, we're finding out has some lasting effects on the people who actually survive it. Like all these things you were talking about and what you said earlier holds very true. We're really going to have to create a safety net, an emotional safety net for a lot of people, because even once this thing's over, once 0.01 people die of this disease, we get to that point, right? It's still going to be something that's going to have an effect on us because it isn't just about dying anymore. We're becoming, while we're not dying as quickly and as often, we're realizing there's a long-lasting effect that happens regardless of your age. That's the scary part, regardless of your age.
And for those that keep thinking that they're invincible, the problems will continue. And it's, yeah, sure, you may have lived through it, but look what you're going to have to carry for the rest of your life. And
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
one of the potential side effects of that is lasting pulmonary damage. If you're an athlete and you get sick because you can't resist going to a bar between hockey games to celebrate with friends, there's, you're setting yourself up. You're dooming yourself.
But let's say this. Can we say this? We don't, I hope neither of us is trying to make somebody feel guilty who makes that mistake and has a lasting problem. Yeah, they have to forgive themselves. Unfortunately, we make mistakes as people, and sometimes we make mistakes that are huge and we make mistakes that are small. What's really sad here is a lot of people will probably make a small, I'm going to call it, Aaron, I'm going to call it a small mistake, and they're going to pay a heavy price. Mm-hmm. And I hope if for the people out there who realize that they did something wrong, I just ask and I beg you to be prepared to talk to somebody, get the emotional help, because as someone who suffered from depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, it took me almost a decade to get out from under it. And unfortunately, I was with a family that didn't understand what I was going through. They had no concept of what I was going through. To be honest, that's the problem with mental issues. And because people don't understand what someone's going through, who's having depressed thoughts or having emotional issues, we don't know how to talk to that person. I think we've talked about this. We talked about this years ago, that people, when it comes to dealing with somebody who has mental issues, we almost don't talk to them because we're afraid we're going to catch it.
And it's not necessarily something that's communicable. You can't pass your depression on to me. It definitely does. I don't disagree with you on that. I don't wish the illness on anybody.
Nobody.
I don't say, hey, you went to a bar last night, you deserve to get sick and you deserve to lose everything. I don't wish that on anybody. It's the worst thing in the world. But you do have to be aware and take the necessary precautions. You have to be proactive in defending yourself. You also have to, in the same way that you have to be proactive in seeking help.
Absolutely. And for those of you who haven't done something like that, keep that in mind, that you make a small mistake could be a heavy, heavy price. And if you want to understand what I'm saying, everybody's been in a car in the middle of winter where they decide to go a little bit too fast around a corner or onto an off-ramp, and then all of a sudden the car's doing what it wants to do, and you don't have any influence on it. And luckily, there's no other cars around. Luckily, you don't go into the ditch. Luckily, you might just end up rolling on the snow, on the gravel. And you sit there and say to yourself, damn, was I lucky? Do I sound like I'm actually speaking from a personal experience? Yes, I am. And that's the problem with coronavirus, folks. You don't have to do something really stupid. That's why you have to be extra vigilant, extra smart, extra considerate of your own self and others, because it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you're doing it for you or for others. The beneficiaries are you and others, regardless of why you do it. That's who benefits. Wearing a mask, we can argue about who benefits more. I really don't care. I think both parties benefit. And that's why a silly little precaution, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's a very good saying. And that's what wearing a mask is all about. It's about prevention. I know this seems like a commercial for wearing a mask when it comes to us, but I think we both.
Something we all have to do. I wouldn't
be so constant about it if I saw people wearing a mask, Aaron.
I was driving through Port Credit this past weekend, and honest to God, less than 10% of the people that were wearing masks. There was no social distancing going on whatsoever outside any of the bars and patios that were open. People were walking in crowds. It just there's no room for anything like that. There's no room for error. Yeah.
I broke into a cold sweat at Shoppers Drug Mart today.
How many people were in the store with you, Frank?
I broke into a sweat because I was in the car, and then we were near these people who didn't know how they were going to park their car. They took 5-10 minutes to figure out where they were going to go, and we were trying to get by them. We couldn't get by them. I finally got by them, and I was so, you get all flustered, right? So I forgot my mask in the car. I didn't notice that it was under something, so I pulled the mask and I ripped the little string, right? Came right out of the thing. So I'm in a cold sweat going, I'm holding the mask like this, and I'm going, well, I can't make the lady carry everything, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. So I looked at it, there was a hole in it. I was in this cold sweat in Drug Mart. I tied a knot and I put it on, and it worked. And I went, and then when we got in there, the stuff we went to get wasn't in stock. So that's another issue with today and the pandemic. Stocking items, you have to be patient too. When you're going to get stuff, you're not necessarily going to find what you're looking for. That's been another byproduct of the pandemic. I mean, our retailers have done a great job though, Aaron. They've done a wonderful job of keeping, shelves stocked. And when it comes to food, at least here in Ontario, I haven't noticed any issue with getting food, and I'm grateful for that.
No, I've noticed that as well. The other thing that I have done is gone out of my way to try to find different places to get those scarcer items. You can find them in locations you wouldn't necessarily think of. For example, going to your mom and pop convenience store. If you're still going there to get your lottery tickets, you may as well make sure that you pick up some toilet paper there too. And I'm pretty sure they'll appreciate that.
My problem is I'm thrifty.
Mm.
And these are not times when you can be thrifty.
No, it's in my nature to be frugal as well.
So I guess we can change our names. We can change the show's name from Newsflash to Thrifty and Frugal.
sounds like a bad video game from the early 90s.
Yeah, one that I wouldn't play. In conclusion, we've only got a couple of minutes left, Aaron, and I hijacked the evening. Give me an indication for you. What's on your mind? What have you seen this week that you haven't had a chance to talk about?
Well, I noticed that Florida, I think, is mandating that schools be back in session come August, the end of August, early September. That's not a good idea.
Did you hear the logic? If we can open up grocery stores, we can open up schools. Yeah,
sure. Why not? I mean, if I can set fire to something with matches, I may as well throw kerosene on top while it's on fire, because why not? They're averaging over 50,000 new cases a day in the States, and they're still insisting on opening everything up because I can't deal with my kids at home anymore. We need to get them out of here before Daddy decides that he's going to stab a kid to death. It's obviously
you're
hyperbole.
Exaggerating. You're kidding. I know that. The thing of it is that one thing our children provide us is they are anti-social distancing. So when the kids go to school, social distancing goes out the window.
Yeah.
In generationally speaking,
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
most definitely. And the other thing is, a friend of mine who happens to be a teacher in Colorado was saying, kids are going to be going back to school eventually. Here's what you do: buy them a mask, right. Make sure they get used to wearing it. Only a little bit of time a day, 30 minutes a day to start with. And you keep upping it and upping it and upping it and upping it. And by the time school actually does finally get back in again, they're used to wearing the mask. They're not going to bother touching their face with it. It's not something that's very difficult to do. I know that a lot of people like to make fun of Korean and Japanese international students because a lot of the culture there, they wear masks. A, because of pollution. B, because they don't want to spread sickness. And it's part of their culture now is that they're used to doing that sort of thing. We need to do that here too. Canada is not above it. The States is not above it. We got to get used to this new reality. And I'm getting sick and tired of saying the new reality.
Yeah, well, look, twice today we went out shopping at various places. We went to Plants, We went to Drug Mart. We went to Tim Hortons. We went to a lot of places. And each time you have to remember to put on the mask. And if you forget, you actually have to turn around and go get it. If you're committed, that's what you have to do. That's what I had to do. I had to fix my mask. He's Aaron William Freeland, my partner in crime when it comes to Newsflash. Very sarcastic. Please don't think that he's serious, because I don't want people getting the wrong idea about Aaron.
Do we need
Thank
a
you, Aaron.
disclaimer before the show, Frank?
Well, I think I should. The Trumpian, he's kidding. I feel like I'm talking on behalf of Donald Trump. Okay, he's Aaron William Freeland. My name's Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching. This concludes another episode of Newsflash. Please note this show can also be heard on the BarnBurner Radio Network on its 122 platforms. Please check out barnburner.ca for all the news. BarnBurner, watch it, hear it, read it, and download it. Oh, by the way, and live it. Apparently, we have to add that too. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi for Aaron William Freeland. Thank you for watching Newsflash. Next, Sports Wrap.